So, Assalamualaikum everyone. For our group, will be presenting about Marxism. So, my name is Radhi Mohammed Noor bin Mambalkiah. My group members is Muhammad Zaim Zahmi bin Rosli, Aiza Azdani, Sharifuddin, and Kamaru Bakri bin Kamri. So, as for the introduction, Marxism is a socio-economic and political theory that examines class struggles and societal development through a materialist interpretation of the history itself, and it was founded by Karl Marx, a 19th century philosopher, economist, and revolutionary thinker, alongside his close collaborator Friedrich Engels. Marxism critiques capitalism, arguing that it leads to systemic inequality between the owners of the production and the proletariat, or also known as the working class, which advocates for a classless society where resources are distributed equally among the community. So, take example of China. Let's take example of communism, where all resources must be distributed equally among the people. There's no rich, there's no poor. There's only a group of people who shares the same amount of resources, wealth. So yeah, Marx and Engels then laid the foundation of Marxism through Marxism in their works such as the Communist Manifesto 1848 and the Das Kapital 1867, which explores the historical materialism and the exploitation inherent in capitalist systems. So in this group we'll be talking about the main factors of the theory, the elaborations of the theory, the impact towards the international community. So that's the end of my part for the introduction. I will be talking about the main factors of the Marxism theory itself. Alright, so first main factors of the theory itself is the main points of the theory itself. Why the theory surface or the theory start existing is the first thing is the class struggle, where it is one of the most fundamental concepts in Marxism, which serve as the historical development social transformation. So Karl Marx, with his friends, his partner Friedrich Engels, argued that human history is shaped by the conflicts between different social classes, so rich and poor, particularly in terms of economic terms, the one who produce, which is the one who control the production, and those who provide labor work. So this struggle is not merely an economic phenomenon, but extends to political, social, and ideological realms, which influence the governance, cultural norms, and societal structures. So according to Marx, history progresses through distinct economic stages: feudalism, capitalism, socialism, and lastly, obviously, communism, which each characterized by a dominant class exploiting a subordinate class. So, historically, in feudal societies, the land-owning aristocracy controlled wealth and power, while peasants worked the land under the exploitative conditions. So, which of these caused the rise of capitalism to replace the feudal lords with the bourgeois. Bourgeois is the class who owns the means of production, which include factories, land, and financial institutions. So, meanwhile, the proletariat, the working class, became the primary labor force. So, Marx argued that capitalism intensified the class divisions as the bourgeois accumulated wealth by extracting surplus value from workers. So next point is the labor theory of value. So this is also a fundamental concept in Marxism economics, where they provide a framework that which to understand how commodities derive their value and how capitalism perpetuates economic exploitation. So Karl Marx built upon this economic value through Adam Smith and David Ricardo, which developed more critical analysis of labor production and profit distribution. So according to Marx, the value of commodity is determined by the socially necessary labor, time required to produce it, rather than subjective factors such as demand or utility. So this theory serves as a foundation for Marx's critiques of capitalism, which highlights the inequalities between the bourgeois, the owners of production, and the proletariat, which is the working class. So last but not least, the main point of this Marxism theory is that communism. So communism is a social, economic, and political ideology that seeks to establish a classless, stateless society where resources and production are collectively owned, distributed based on need rather than profit, unlike capitalism. So this is very deeply rooted in the Marxism theory, which communism aims to eliminate social hierarchies, economic exploitation, and private ownership, which creates a system where all individuals contribute to and benefit from communal wealth. So Karl Marx and his partner Friedrich Engels laid the foundation for communist thought in the 19th century, which argues that capitalism inherently leads to inequality and must be replaced by an equitable society. So one thing is that while Marx's vision of communism has influenced numerous political movements, its implementation has varied across different historical contexts. So the Russian Revolution of 1917 led to the establishment of Soviet Union, which adopted principles but maintained a centralized state structure. Similarly, Maoist China pursued communist policies, emphasizing agrarian collectivization and state-controlled industries. And another different form of communism is such as Leninism, which is Vladimir Lenin, and Stalinism and Trotskyism, adapted Marxism thought to fit specific political and economic conditions. However, many communist states face challenges, including bureaucratic inefficiencies, authoritarian governance, and economic stagnation, which leads to critics of what true communism was ever fully realized at all. On paper, it might sound great. However, when it comes to a real life implementation, so far there's no success. There's no country that we see practicing communism fully, where wealth and resources are equally distributed among the people itself. So yeah, that is all for my part for main factors of the Marxism theory. Thank you.
My name is Muhammad Zaim Zulhelmi bin Rosli. Now I would like to present about the analysis theory of Marxism. The first analysis is historical materialism. Marxism is rooted in the idea of historical materialism, which means that the way a society produces and distributes resources determines its political and social structure. According to the view, history is not driven by ideas or heroes, but by material forces, primarily the economy. For example, in feudal Europe, the economy was based on agriculture and land ownership. Lords controlled the land while peasants worked on it. This economic system gave rise to a political structure in which kings and nobles held the power, supported by a religious ideology that justified the hierarchy. When capitalism emerged, especially during the Industrial Revolution, the economic base shifted to factories and industrial production, leading to a new political and social arrangement centered around the capitalist class. Next is the ideology of the superstructure. Marxism distinguishes between the economic base, means and relation of production, and the superstructure, which is law, politics, religion, and culture. The ruling class uses the superstructure to maintain its dominance by spreading ideologies that justify and normalize their control. The idea of the American dream suggests that anyone who works hard can become rich. While this can happen, Marxists argue that it masks the reality of systemic inequality and makes workers believe the system is fair, even when the odds are stacked against them. This belief discourages them from organizing for systematic change.
Hi, my name is Kamara Bakti Vichambi. Now I want to continue on analysis of theory which is Marxism. Number 6. Revolution and the path communism. Marx believed that capitalism, due to the internal contradiction, would eventually collapse. He predicted that the proletariat would rise, overthrow the bourgeoisie, and establish a socialist state where the means of production would be public owned. Over time, this will lead to a communist society free of classes, exploitation, and the state itself. The Cuban Revolution in 1959 did the Fidel Castro and the Guevara is often cited as an example of matrix inspiration revolution. After throwing a capitalist regime backed by foreign interest, Cuba naturalized industry and implemented socialist policies such as free healthcare and education. While not a perfect realization of Marxism, it was a practical attempt to break from capitalist domination. The seventh is criticism of Marxism. While Marxism has a profound impact, it's not without criticism. Some argue that it underestimates human agency and oversized economy. Others point to the failure and authoritarianism in countries that claim to follow Marxism, such as Soviet Union under Stalin. In the Soviet Union, instead of achieving equality, the state became authoritarian, controlling nearly every aspect of life and suppressing dissent. Marx envisioned the state eventually disappearing, but in reality, many Marxist governments become highly centralized and representative.
Thank you, Zain and Kamal, on explaining the analysis of theory. Now, me and Shaifuddin will explain on the impact on the international relations. First point is economic determinism in global politics. The Marxism argues that international relations are shaped by economic force, as according to its views, global politics is not just about diplomacy or national interest, but also its class struggles between the rich capitalist country and the poor and exploited nation. As this helps explain why some countries act aggressively and often to protect the economy interests or maintain global dominance. And the second point is criticism of imperialism and global inequality. The Marxist theory also criticized imperialism, where powerful nations use economic and political influence to control weaker countries. This creates a global system of inequality, where wealth and power are concentrated in the hands of a few, as many developing countries remain dependent on richer ones, reinforcing on the cycle of poverty and exploitation that continue to shape international relations today. And I will pass it to Shaifuddin to explaining the next point.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Sharifuddin bin Amiruddin. So right now I'm gonna explain for the third and the last part for the impact of Marxism on international relations. So for the third part, which are Marxist views on war and conflict. Marxism sees war and conflict as driven by economic interests, not just politics or power struggles. While realists focus on security threats and power balance, Marxists argue that wars often serve capitalist goals like controlling resources, protecting profits, or boosting weapon sales. Like for example, the US invasions of Iraq has been to secure oil and benefit the arms industry. And for the second example we can take, which is the Cold War. Interventions in poorer countries were often about stopping socialism to protect capitalist control. By connecting war to economics, Marxism offers a different take on why conflicts happen. One that focuses on money and power, not just the ideology. And then for the last part, which is a different vision for the world. Marxism imagines a world without classes or states, where capitalism, exploitation ends. Unlike liberals who sees groups like the International Monetary Fund, as known as IMF, and World Trade Organizations, WTO, as fair, Marxists view them as tools of capitalist control. Modern thinkers like Justin Rosenberg on 1994 argue that globalization spreads capitalist dominance rather than equality. Marxism challenges that the idea of the current world order is the only option, pushing us to rethink on how global powers really works. That's all from me. I will pass to the next presenter.
As for the conclusion, Marxism remains one of the most influential socio-economic theories in the modern history, which provides a framework for understanding class struggle, economic systems, and social transformation, which was developed by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, where they critiques the capitalism as a system that fosters inequality, exploitation, and alienation, arguing that historical progress is driven by conflicts between social classes within the poor and the rich. So, through its cores, historical materialism, the labor theory of value, surplus value, and revolutionary change, which Marxism offers a vision of a classless, stateless society where economic production is based on the need rather than profit, like I said, equally distributed among the people itself. There will be no rich, there will be no poor, just a neutral part. So only that one community living with equal wealth, with equal resources. So, however, although Karl Marx theory, which is Marxism, towards the global working class revolution have not materialized in the way he himself want. His idea has significantly shaped the political movement, economic policies, and economic discourse, which can be seen in socialist revolutions, labor movements, and critiques of capitalist economies. Even in contemporary debates on wealth distribution, workers' rights, and social justice, Marxist analysis provides honest facts, honest truth of which systemic inequalities can be examined. That is all from our group. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.